Hi, it's Kate Dupay with Three Valley Yoga and Yoga Health Coaching. If you would like to find me on Facebook, it's Three Valley Yoga, but written in French. So the number three and then VALLEES Yoga. That main page is primarily in French, but there are some links to my main page and also a new group that I've started that I'm excited about called Space, Harmony, Desire, Evolution. And it's a space where I'm hoping that can start some conversations and do some sharing on the topics of yoga and Ayurveda. So a couple ways to find me. Again, it's Kate Dupay. Thanks for being here this morning. I wanted to offer just an hour-long practice with a lot of emphasis on the breath and breathing techniques. And so I wanted to start this morning by taking a couple moments to talk about breathing techniques, just very generally. Pranayama, it's called in yoga, but just the respiratory system in general. So despite our respiratory system being essential to life and integral in just the functioning of the body, obviously, despite that, I find that breathing in general during the day is often overlooked. We don't think about it, which is normal also because it is an unconscious function of the body. It's an autonomic process of the body, controlled by the respiratory center in the brain, which controls the rate of the breath. Then there are the parts of the brain, medulla, pons, closer to the brainstem, that send the messages down to the intercostal muscles to contract and the diaphragm to contract, changing the pressures inside versus outside, which all stimulates the need, the unconscious need to inhale and exhale. So it's quite normal, maybe, that we don't think about it. But yet this system is special in the sense that we also have the capacity to control our breath and to change it. So that in and of itself, to me, is a sign that we probably should change our breathing and control our breathing at times. But if we want to ask the question, why should I practice breath work? Why should I change my breathing? And just very basically, it's a way to reset the autonomic nervous system. It's a way to kind of decrease the activity of the sympathetic nervous system, which is in charge of our fight or flight stress response, which today we're in perhaps more than we'd like to admit. And so there's great reason to try and increase the activity of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relaxation response of the nervous system. So very important and very interesting to start practicing breath work and seeing what changes you might feel in the body. The idea really is that a repeated voluntary action, like slowing the breath down or practicing different techniques. The idea is that learning occurs and that there is neurophysiological and cognitive changes that can slowly occur, changes to the kind of underpinning control centers of the breath. And I find that in yoga practices, in yoga classes, the teaching of breath work and the teaching of pranayama, as it's called, can have an air of mystery to it, and which is understandable, I believe, because it is a practice. Yoga, it is a tradition that dates back to 4,000 years ago. So I think it's normal that there's a bit of a mysterious element to it. These early original yogis knew, they believed, they experienced, they felt that the ability to control the breath and work the breath equaled health, good health, health of the physical body and health of the emotional body, the mind, body. And so these practices, some of these breath techniques have lasted through the years. And I feel we should be able to teach them and practice them in a way that's very basic and in a way that's very accessible and um, easy to integrate in everyday life. So that's my intention today, is to look first at a couple terms for breath work that you'll hear in your yoga classes often, and that's ujjayi pranayama. And then also we can refer to just the basic 3-part yogic breath. And so looking a little bit more closely at what that ujjayi breath is, and what this 3-part yogic breath is, and why we practice it. And looking at it from a more physiological standpoint, as well as talking about some of the energetics. So first, just finding a comfortable seat. Another position, if it's not possible to be seated crossed legs, you can take cushions or pillows and sit in a kneeling position. We do try and favor a spine that's nice and erect. So it can also be in a seated position on a chair or on the couch. And so because breathing in general today, a lot of people, there can be over breathing, which is where we're breathing at a rate that's higher than is ideal. And often that breath is not very deep. It just involves the lungs and the rib cage, not really involving the diaphragm. So if that is the case, which can cause problems and kind of a vicious cycle where it's not a lack of oxygen that the body's feeling, it's actually a lack of CO2, because we're breathing too often and breathing off the CO2. But point is, often we just need to sit and observe the breath to start, because we may not know what our patterns are, we might not know what our tendencies are. And so finding a comfortable seat where you can close your eyes and just get comfortable, relax the shoulders down, close the eyes if that suits you, and just start observing your breath. And I'll talk a little bit more about these 2 main types of breathing that we hear in yoga classes often. So just let the shoulders relax, make some faces or yawn a little bit. Try and relax the mouth and the jaw, the cheeks. You squish the eyes a little bit, relax the forehead. See if you can feel just a general sense of kind of like you're arriving. Notice the shape of your mouth. Maybe you're a mouth breather at times. If possible, just let the lips just gently touch. Allow the tip of the tongue to just gently touch the roof of the mouth, right behind the upper teeth. And just start to settle into this practice. It is a practice to just observe the breath. Feel the breath coming in and out of the nostrils. And noticing really specifically, quite precisely, feel that the air is colder on the way in. And notice the quality of the air on the way out. It's more humid. It's warmer. Notice these qualities, these sensations. Maybe if you're not used to breathing in and out through the nose all the time, just see what it feels like to breathe in and out through the nostrils. Maybe there's some dryness Maybe one is more open than the other, one nostril. Notice the quality of the inhale, quality of the exhale. Maybe one is easier or more comfortable or more familiar than the other, or more soothing. And then just continue. Keep relaxing the shoulders. Just notice where you might be feeling tension in the body. Or if you're not comfortable in your position, then change your seat. When we start practicing ujjayi or a real technique here, I want you to be really comfortable. Ideally, spine erect, but maybe you're laying down, and that's fine too. Because in a yoga practice, we'll practice the breath in all sorts of different positions. So pranayama is the name for breathing techniques in yoga. Prana, a word you've probably heard before, meaning life force or just this energy, vital energy. And there is a strong connection between the idea of prana, energetically speaking, this life force, and also the effects on energy liberation in the physical body, in our physiology. When we talk about cellular metabolism, we're talking about energy being released, energy being produced on a cellular level. And clearly, there is cause and effect there based on how much oxygen is circulating and how efficient the respiratory system is. So to start working with an ujjayi breath, ujjayi, it really comes down to at the beginning, just the form of your mouth, the structure, the shape that you're holding your mouth in. So the tip of the tongue, the roof of the mouth, just behind the teeth. And the idea is we want to slow the breath down. Imagine a straw. If you're drinking water through a big fat straw versus a small straw. So the idea is we kind of want to restrict or kind of restrict down the breathing passages. And so we often say there's a constriction in the back of the throat. We compare it to the form of the mouth if you're doing a mouthwash. So now as you breathe out, try exhaling out through an open mouth and making a sound. Even imagining that you are gargling. Open the mouth pretty wide. Often we're used to or trained in or taught to breathe out through the pursed lips. Here I'm asking for a big, wide open mouth, like you're trying to create some steam or fog on a mirror or on a window. So an inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. When you feel that and hear that, then try it with the mouth being closed. So as if you were exhaling out through the mouth, but closing the mouth, and so the air is forced out through the nose, while maintaining this sensation of, on one hand, it feels like we're constricting as we are, as if we're gargling. But as the mouth closes, there's also a feeling of opening and spaciousness in the back of the mouth, the nasopharynx. So see if you feel like you can slow the breath down more comfortably, inhaling as if we're sucking in through this thin, thin little straw, narrow opening. And also exhaling out more slowly. So when we talk about ujjayi, it's immediately we think of this form, the shape of the throat, the mouth, and this sound. So hear that sound that it's creating, and this sound You can compare it to the sounds of maybe the waves crashing up onto the beach, or just a background soothing, soothing background noise that soothes the nervous system. So keep playing with this ujjayi. Add some movement. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down. So the idea is that we do slow the breath down. Even, steady, controlled inhales, but without overworking. Even, gentle, steady, flowing exhales. Again, without straining, but try and get all of the air out. So with that over breathing, we're inhaling in. Shallow inhale. Exhaling out, probably a shallow exhale where we don't ever completely empty the lungs. So, and now we'll move into talking about kind of the role of the diaphragm and the importance of kind of retraining and really working on the flexibility of this muscle, this big muscle, respiratory muscle. And then just for some joy and some feeling good movements, just taking a little half moon. And so you can feel these intercostal muscles stretching, right? All the ones right in between the ribs in the rib cage. So in yoga, we do a lot of work with breath retention as well on the inhale and on the exhale. If you're more advanced, if this is really basic, then enjoy some extra work, little inhaling and retaining the breath, the lungs full. And then we'll actually move into just a supine position. And we'll put the hands on the belly and start really feeling the belly moving, and talk about the three-part yogic breath. And it's really just a little bit more accessible and simple to feel it when we're laying down on the back. So put the hands on the belly to start. And consciously, a little bit of effort, inhale and fill the belly. And when we do that, we notice that just naturally there's a desire to let that breath move up into the rib cage and up higher into the tops, tippy tops of the lungs, which reach all the way up to the base of the clavicles. So when we talk about a three-part breath, it's the belly, maybe even the lower belly, and then a filling that moves upwards, filling up the rib cage, lower rib cage even, upper rib cage, tippy tops of the lungs, and maybe feeling it go all the way up into the mouth. Visualize the breath up in the head, and then a nice easy exhale. Inhale, first part, feel the belly. Second part, let the breath move up into the lower ribs, upper ribs, clavicles. Soften the eyes at the very top of the inhale. And then exhale. Nice, even, fluid, easy exhale. And just notice if you have any awareness of your diaphragm, what this diaphragm muscle does. The diaphragm sits underneath the ribs, and when it contracts, contracts down, and it's this downward contraction of the diaphragm that allows more space in the lungs and creates this kind of blowing out of the belly that we see really clearly in babies and little kids. If you watch a baby breathe, the inhale, the belly expands. Oftentimes as we get older and we become more trained in trying to pull the belly in and look tall, have that nice big chest, confidence, we learn to do the opposite and we pull the belly in on the inhale to blow up the chest. And so it can become a habit to do the opposite of what is natural. You can put your hands on your chest, on your ribs. So first part belly, second part ribs. And if you start with the middle fingers touching as you inhale and expand and feel the rib cage lift, your fingers will move apart. So the work of these intercostal muscles, when they contract, it lifts the rib cage up, expands the ribs apart, all to make room for this expansion of the lungs. And often after I do some deep breathing, maybe you'll yawn and you do feel the nervous system soothing, relaxing. So when you're ready, inhale, just reach the arms overhead and stretch. So we become more curious and more aware as we move through yoga poses of what the diaphragm is doing, what the belly is doing, whether we're expanding the belly or drawing the belly down. And again, just for some easy stretching, take the legs up towards the ceiling and just do some auto massage on the legs. Maybe some stiffness in the legs, massage the thighs. So practicing the breathing laying down is also, it makes it really easy to feel the exhale, drawing the belly towards the spine, which will work more actively as well. So oftentimes in the yoga classes, we might hear an instruction to pull the belly in on the exhale, which is going to strengthen the abdominal muscles. And it also starts to, here I'm just taking some happy baby. It can also start to prepare the body for some different pranayama practices, some different breathing techniques that become a bit more advanced and a bit more complex. So happy baby pose, just a nice pose, morning or evening. Stretch of the inner thighs, stretch of the hamstrings. Maybe don't have the flexibility to spread the legs and pull the knees down, and that's fine. Just do what you can. And then let's put the feet back down. Let's take the arms overhead. So already feeling the chest lift. Maybe the shoulders don't go down all the way. That's fine. Do what you can. And maybe the arms stay at vertical. But feel the chest lifting. And then inhale, expand the belly. And then at the top of the inhale, just take the bottom off the floor. And then breathe normally. Or practice ujjayi if you can, if the nostrils are open. So I often say every time we change positions, it's the opportunity to notice the breath again. So when we have the belly higher than the heart, there's always going to be a bit more effort. We're working against gravity. So the diaphragm contracts in this direction towards the pelvis. So we have gravity moving against us, working against us. So inhale takes more effort. It's a little muscular effort. And then contrastly, on the exhale, gravity is working in our favor, and just let that belly drop down. And exhale, coming down. And apanasana, apana, vayu, apana. Energy is a downward moving energy in the body. So apanasana is a great position, just knees to the chest to work, increase in energy moving down. So great for elimination. And then we'll just roll over to the side and we're going to come into a tabletop position. And so a lot of times we'll start, or early on in a yoga practice, we'll do cat-cow. So the cow position refers to the belly that drops down, the sway back, the back is arched, cow pose. So if we stick with this physiology of the inhale, diaphragm contracting, moving down to let the belly expand, then cow pose is a very natural position to practice an inhale. So a lot of times people will get confused whether it's exhale, inhale, or inhale, exhale. It doesn't really matter, but if we're working with the natural physiology and how the breath moves, then the arching of the spine and the belly expanding might feel more natural with the inhale. And then the exhale, here we can, as I said, maybe actively pull the belly in. So here, imagine this diaphragm is moving back up into the rib cage, all to work to compress and to squeeze any air out. So we use these phrases or these expressions like fill the lungs and then compress and squeeze the breath out. We know that the natural physiology doesn't exactly work like that. The breath is coming in through the air passages that go down eventually to the smallest airways, and the gas exchange happens in those little sacs, those alveoli. But the contraction of the abdominal muscles does help to encourage the diaphragm to relax back into its position. And those intercostal muscles do contract. So there is an effect with this contracting of those muscles to kind of squeeze and just ensure that we're breathing all the air out. So getting any stale air out. So what happens if we don't empty the airways and don't empty the lungs completely? There's just always a little residual stagnant air. And that can kind of diminish the body's natural response to wanting to inhale. So just cat-cow, exhale, round the spine. It stretches the back, stretches the shoulder muscles, strengthening the arms, strengthening the abdominal muscles. You can kind of rock with it too, back towards a child's pose. On the inhale, reach forward. And it can be at whatever pace you like. This morning, we're really talking about slowing the breath down. If you're more practiced and certainly if you're more aware of the energy in your body and what you need in a given moment, it can be faster. And it can be out through the mouth. And then just rest. Child's pose or kneeling position. And again, change the position, notice the breath. We can start to notice our patterns, start to notice our habits. And then we'll come into down dog. So down dog, tucking the toes under. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, just pressing into the toes and the forefeet and lift the bottom into the air. I try and come into down dog, really conscious of keeping the curves in my back natural, whereas a tendency might be to round the spine and push it back. This transition is a bit more from the bowstring practice, lifting, low back curve. Good. So just come into down dog. If it's new, just do your best to find a way to be comfortable in the pose. If it's really not possible, if the shoulders are really tight, then you might want to have a chair close by, either the back of the chair or the seat of the chair, and work something like this, which is going to be similar to the benefits of down dog. So breathing either in down dog or in a supported pose with a chair or even the wall. And notice your breath. Feel how it's a bit harder to expand the belly. And a bit easier and really soothing to exhale. Let the belly pull in. So the belly will kind of suck in just naturally with the diaphragm moving back up into the rib cage, and then also with gravity. And so we can also just kind of enhance that with a little abdominal contraction. And here, maybe just walking the hands back, or if your hands are on a chair, just slowly bring yourself to a standing position. When we stand, you can round up or come up straight spine. If you're rounding up, just bend the knees to support the back. And just come to a standing pose and just take a nice 4 or 5 breath pause. What happens to your breath when you stand still? Do you have any habit patterns? So you've probably been cued in yoga or just in, excuse me, in general, to pull the belly in, draw the tailbone down, and that should be our resting standing pose. If we're trying to stand like this all the time, then naturally we're going to end up breathing more with just the thoracic, the rib cage, because we're trying to pull the belly in. And so the thought is that that's going to stabilize the spine. My way of thinking and what I am practicing now, and coming from different practices, but especially bowstring, is that I'm going to let that lower back curve, that's natural. I'm going to let the belly expand. That's natural. So feel the belly be soft to start and long. And with the belly soft to start, long, then we can still strengthen the belly. So let's just inhale the arms up and exhale, arms down a few times, kind of like a mini squat. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And this time come down into what we call chair pose, Utkatasana. Again, I see sometimes here this desire to pull the belly in and draw the tailbone down, when really the whole point here is to let the lower back be curved, allow the belly to relax, and then strengthen the upper back by lifting the chest. When we have that to start with, then we can, on the exhale, pull the belly in. Inhale, release. Exhale, belly in. So hands to the heart. The heart's pressing forward into the thumbs. We don't need to be very low. We're working on the shape of the spine, strengthening of the abdomen with the breath. If that's too much, just come back to standing. If you're feeling really strong and the knees and all the joints allow, you can go deeper. Arms can reach forward as well. It's a bit like the skier downhill position, strengthening the shoulders. So just play with these different variations of chair pose with your breath. We can inhale and rise. Feel the energy rising. And we can exhale and root. Feel the energy coming down. Come back to the Ujjayi breath. Integrated with just full abdominal breathing. We have to root down in order to rise up. This apana vayu, this energy in the body that moves down, keeping us anchored. And then it's the prana vayu, the wind, the movement upward. Once more. And then just release again. And notice. Again, notice your tendencies. Is it to lock the legs, draw the tailbone down? You know, maybe a tendency is to have this as a standing pose where the femurs jut forward, collapse into the low back. That's somewhat where this idea comes from, where we want to pull the belly in and draw the tailbone down. But just allow the knees to bend and try and visualize the natural curves of your spine. The belly relax on the inhale. And there's a natural firming of the belly on the exhale that maybe we need to exaggerate a little bit at the start. So next we'll come into just an easy vinyasa, I call it, but easy is relative. I'll also show a variation just using the chair. Bring the hands to the heart. So vinyasa yoga is where we really link the breath to the movement. So it can be very, very exciting as you start to practice breath work and then slowly are able to incorporate it into a flow. So just play with it. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, fold. Knees bend as much as you need to. Inhale, just a halfway lift, partly just to breathe. Again, the belly expands, the spine is long. And then exhale, right leg back. And take just a lunge or warrior one, depending on how you feel. Exhale, we'll come back into down dog. And inhale. So actually we're just moving into a nice sun salutation. Knees come down. Exhale, chest towards the floor. Inhale, just a little cobra. Don't force anything. Exhale, back into a down dog. Big inhale. Exhale, right foot forward into your lunge, warrior one. And then exhale, bring the left foot forward and fold. And then inhale back up to standing. Exhale, hands to the heart. So that was a very basic sun salutation. Not what I would call a simplest vinyasa. But depending on your level, excuse me. So I'll do that one more time, and then I'll do a couple of rounds using a chair. Remembering the idea of vinyasa is to link the breath to the movement. So inhaling, the arms up. Allow the belly to expand. Exhale, folding forward. We can pull the belly in. Inhale, halfway lift. Allow the belly to expand, spine long. Exhale, right leg back. As you rise up, feel the energy rising, breath rising, belly expanded, then breath moved up. Exhale, down dog. Inhale into plank, or drop the knees like I did last time, or chaturanga dandasana from plank, heart towards the floor, and then up either to cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. Bring the right foot forward. So there's some transitions where we may really try and lengthen an inhale or lengthen an exhale. And so it's normal that if we're not used to doing a vinyasa practice, if you go and take a vinyasa class, you'll probably find yourself having a hard time keeping up with the breath cues and find yourself quite breathless. Continue on your own like that if you like. Or here's a little option. If we have a little bit more reduced mobility at the moment, inhale the arms up. Then I'm going to try and slow it down even more this time. Exhale, fold forward, and adjust the feet, trying to get down kind of low. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, shifting the feet, right foot back. Can be just a mini warrior one or lunge. We'll do a static warrior one here in a minute. Exhale, you can come into a plank pose. Kind of lean forward, strengthen the arms, almost shoulders over the wrists. And then inhale, even bringing the shoulders directly over the wrists, arms straight, pushing down into the chair. Knees can bend, but we're coming into a little extension like cobra or up dog. Exhale, back into this modified down dog. So this is the same exhale, then we're going to sneak the right leg forward and do the other side. Inhale. So the vinyasa practice does challenge us to slow the breath down and be able to link the poses, one breath to another. Exhale, folding forward. And then inhale, coming back up. Exhale, hands down to the heart. And maybe between each vinyasa, you take a couple of breaths. Check in, feel the heart rate, notice the breath rate. Are you mouth breathing? Do you want to take a nice sigh, exhale out to the mouth? So just a couple more, however you want to modify, however intense you want to make it. Exhale, you can fold forward. You can really use any part of the chair, the back of the chair, if you have sides to the chair like this. Inhale. This little inhale where we do a half lift, we're just really trying to lengthen the spine. Exhale, right leg back. And so inhale, it's uplifting, prana vayu, lifting up. Exhale. This would be our down dog. Into a plank, or maybe you're on all fours. Reaching forward into, it's just an extension. It's a decent way to practice working towards an extension. Exhale, modified down dog. So long exhale, same exhale, pull the belly in and step that foot forward. Lunge on the other side. Inhale, root down to lift up, to rise. And exhale back into modified forward fold. And inhale back to standing. So these are just some ideas to work towards some sort of vinyasa practice. Vinyasa just means flow, connecting, linking the breath to the movement. And just releasing and just shake it out a little bit. So Ujjayi breath, in and out through the nose, constriction in the back of the throat, that ha sound. 3-part breath where we emphasize the belly first, rising up into the rib cage, rising up with the breath. Let's just do some little twisting here. Keep shaking it out. So vinyasa practices, vinyasa classes, there can be a strong emphasis on maintaining an Ujjayi breath throughout the whole practice. More often, your hatha yoga classes or other classes, there'll be times where you're just breathing as your body desires, less control. So here, just let maybe some exhales out through the mouth, twisting. And then let's widen the feet and inhale the arms up. And exhale, folding forward. So Prasarita Padottanasana, basic wide leg, forward fold, or you can use the chair again. Notice your breath. If you're quite flexible, it becomes quite an inversion. Notice any sensations in the head. Avoid it. Avoid folding forward if you have a headache. It makes your head hurt. And see if you can come back to the breath. If the breath is quite steady and you're quite comfortable with the exhaling, slow, steady exhale out through the nose, the belly pulling in, then these inversions can help us work towards what eventually will be some intense pranayama, Agni Sardota, or eventually working with bandhas, which are kind of physical, energetic locks where we try and contain energy into certain areas. And just for fun, if it's accessible, interlace the fingers and reach them up and back. Just to get a little extra stretching. And then walk the feet back and just come down either into child's pose or seated. And so you'll start to notice becomes quite obvious, the poses where, the belly is constricted. You can even make fists and kind of put the fists in the lower belly. It can be nice to massage the lower belly, the intestines. But we notice immediately, well, this is a pose where my belly breathing isn't going to be as obvious or as intense or as full. But I can make my thoracic breathing quite full and feel maybe even the expansion between the ribs, the intercostal muscles working. Or imagine that there are hands placed on your scapulas, your shoulder blades, your mid-back.
And you're making those hands move by breathing deeply into your rib cage.
In poses like that, where we're folding forward, belly might be compressed, then enjoy, notice what it feels like to come back up and have more space for the breath in the belly. And then there are poses where the belly's more open and it's very obvious that the belly can expand, as in back bends, and just show a variation in a seated position where we can try and work a back bend. If we're sitting on a chair, on the edge of the chair, maybe even grabbing the legs of the chair or wherever you can to get a little bit of support and lift. Lifting, pushing down through the feet, sitting bones down, lifting up and back, maybe walking the hands back to a different part of the chair. And so the belly's wide open. You can let that expansion happen in a more classic yoga pose, Ustrasana, or camel pose. Again, our goal is to let the belly be soft, long, just by nature of lifting and staying tall, the body, the muscles will also engage and be strong. So it's soft, the belly soft, long, and strong. So Ustrasana, camel pose. You could also use the chair. This sort of position. So again, I'm not drawing the tailbone down and engaging the belly. I'm letting the back be natural. Trying to lengthen up, gain all my length in the spine before trying to find any extension in the back. Toes can be tucked under. If the toes are tucked under, maybe you can reach the heels. So classic Ustrasana. You can let the head go back if it feels good. You can stretch the throat, or you can keep the head neutral, gazing ahead. So here you can really feel how the belly starts out as it can, if we choose to. Let the belly be soft, then let the belly be long. And then just by nature of the position and engaging the breath, the belly can also be strong. So oftentimes we think of a strong belly as crunches and this C curve, crunching the belly. But we can work the abdominal muscles even with a soft, long, and then strong belly. So if you've done a big camel pose or a big back bend there, take the position that is calling you to this little counter pose. I tend to favor just a vertical spine, natural spine as I recover from a back bend. But many of you might prefer to go right into a forward bend, forward fold. Just listen to your body. And go back to your breath. So if the breathing is really new, and if you want to commit to learning your yoga practice with a real emphasis on the breath, then I encourage you to not jump into these vinyasas necessarily. and maybe practice more static poses to start, unless the vinyasa is very easy, very, very simple, linking the breath to the movement. Or we can practice refining the breath in a more static position. So just Anjanasana, just a full lunge. You can be more upright if we're limited, or you can be more forward if you're quite flexible. You can join the hands, gaze up to the ceiling. Maybe a challenging pose for balance, maybe a challenging pose for strengthening the quadriceps. Maybe we're really tight through the psoas and the hips. Come back to the breath. The breath is also, it's like our refuge. Take refuge in the breath. Or you can look at it sometimes as a nice distraction. If we're in an intense position. So here again, belly is soft and then long because I'm reaching upwards, and then strong because I can, at the end of the exhale, pull the belly in. I'm not sacrificing my spine or my alignment in order to strengthen the belly. I'm not sacrificing my breath. Those can be tucked under if you feel more comfortable. And release. Again, listen to your body and take the position that you're craving for a little rest, for a little pause. And we'll move towards completing this practice with your choice of positions. You can choose to finish with some more seated breathing. You can even make our seat higher if you choose, or go back to a supine position on your back. After this final breathing observation, I encourage you to take as much time as you have after the video is done to lay in Shavasana. Could be laying down, legs up on a chair. I'm choosing to just sit, find my seat again. Could be kneeling, could be sitting in a chair. To really bring all of my attention again to the whole respiratory system. But my guess is to be beneficial to kind of have your attention in the belly and really observe what you're feeling in your stomach. A very specific memory of after my first baby was born, having some anxiety and having that feeling of literally feeling like I couldn't breathe, like I was suffocating. And a very specific memory of realizing in that moment that my breath was not moving down. My diaphragm was stuck. So, and I know I'm not alone, the emphasis then on the abdominal breathing and this classic 3-part yogic breath, it is important. And once you find that connection again and the capacity to breathe deeply and fully, then it becomes very interesting to learn more about the energetics of yoga. And as I threw out these words, apana vayu, energy moving down, prana vayu, energy moving up. We can start using our time on the mat or even off the mat. When we're putting our emphasis, our concentration on the breath, we can start guiding the energy, noticing, do I need more energy moving down? Am I not feeling grounded? Or do I need more energy moving up? Am I feeling like a sloth? And you can start directing the energy. Am I away too much in my head? Do I need to get the energy moving down? So, encouraging these last couple moments to notice what you feel in the body and maybe specifically as far as the direction of your breath. Not trying to change anything. Let your body breathe naturally. Just keep the mindset of wanting to learn and being curious and observing. These yogis experimented and they experienced what is the breath being an intermediary between the mind and the body. So when we talk about what yoga means, union of mind and body, body, spirit, a joining together of these different parts of us. It was born out of experimentation and sitting and observing. So I encourage you to keep or start experimenting and moving with your breath. Maybe it's as simple as as we did, inhale, exhale every morning, some twisting. Just start experimenting and start feeling kind of the magic that can happen when you get back in touch with your breath and when you kind of re-educate your physiology as to how it was born to breathe. So one more deep breath together, inhaling. And exhaling. And namaste. Have a great day. And again, if you want to get in touch with me, if you don't already have my email, you can find my Facebook page. The yoga page is 3 Valley Yoga. Again, it's the number 3 Valley, VALLEES Yoga. That's on Facebook. So have a great day. Thank you so much. Namaste.